Mm.
Saying
Alright.
you are allowed to transmit.
And now I think we're gonna get started. Yeah, I love lively I don't know what the word is. Conversation. Alright, part two. Take it away. So yeah, contesting doesn't always have to be competitive. I'm Mathew, KM6WIU, for those on the Zooms or the YouTube watching later. And yeah, let's get started. So brief history. The ARRL, the Amateur Radio Relay League, started out exactly as that, relay league, and volunteers that essentially would transmit messages across the U.S. via, listening points and talking points, almost like smoke signals, but cooler because radio. Well, this was back in the early 1900s until the 1920s or so. Huh?
You're good.
Confusion. And they'd actually compete with companies like Western Union, who were paid to do this kind of thing. So kind of cool that volunteers were doing this for fun. They were only limited to the 1.5 megahertz band, which is 200 meters and 1 kilowatt of power, which nowadays we only have 1.5 kilowatts, but only is a strong word for that. That's a lot of power. And then 1921, Hiram, I always forget how to say his name, Hiram, I believe, Percy Maxim, 1AW, sent a message from Connecticut to the West Coast and back in 6 minutes via 3 relays. So that's kind of somewhat where it started with the first test. And then we had the first transatlantic test they attempted in 1919, but yeah, that didn't happen. But then in 1921, 24 or so, US people were sending messages, and there were 250 people in the UK that were receiving these messages, and they were told, oh yeah, you'll get a prize, if you receive the most, or if you receive them most correct, because it's almost like telephone, a game of, who knows if you're actually going to hear them right. And yeah, so that was kind of the start of contesting. And then in 1923, let me look at my notes here. The first actual CQ, so contesting party happened in March 1923. I already said that. And then the first real one was 1927 via the International Relay Party.
What was 1922? I should know that.
Oh, so this is the first transatlantic test. So QST is the magazine. I guess that's kind of in the way there, but it's not too bad.
That's my birthday.
1922. But yeah, really cool start to it, and then it kind of blew up from there.
To change it to 1993.
And then also I have on here, so in 1930 of January, the first VHF contest was held on the 5 meter band. So it grew from there, and now it's pretty big, and we'll get to that shortly. So I just wanted to highlight on some of the clubs W's in the past. We've actually won contests. The California QSO party on the top right there, we were first place in 1995. Third place, School Club Roundup 2011. We've done some cool things in the past, like that's the High Mountain Condor lookout, which Tyler might have seen recently. And they, I believe, operated there for one of the field days, along with operating at Cuesta Peak, which is in this paper log here in 1983, I believe. So they did pretty well. They got 100,000 points, I think, in 1983. They got multiple multipliers. It's crazy, but once we get the maestro, yes. Stay strong. Stay strong. Next month. One day. So why should I care? Why is it cool? Maybe I should have started with that, but too bad. Competitions, some clubs at other schools. Awards, so sometimes they're locale based. Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say about that. So I was reading today, Washington State has a salmon run every year, and they will ship you smoked salmon if you win or get within the first 10 of that competition. Along with the California QSO party, which I did a little bit with. If you get in the first 10 or 20 places, they ship you a bottle of California wine. So kind of fun things to know if you do win.
Did you win?
No, we did not. No comment. No comment. But you can also do casual contesting. So here's a kind of fun QSL card. And QSL just we'll get the Q codes in a bit. But just acknowledging that, oh, I made a contact with you, got all the information I needed. And you got all the information, from me, who I am, where I am, stuff like that. Other fun ones, DX Century Club, Worked All States Triple Play, which I believe is 3 different modes. So, you know, phone, CW, and then some kind of data, so like FT8 or something, which we'll also talk about in a bit. You know, becoming proficient with your equipment, learning about propagation conditions, and yeah, just kind of getting to know stuff and learning what works and doesn't work. For example, in field day last year, we had a lot of fun with that, but you learn by breaking, as they say. And yeah, that's just a radio sport headset there. All right, myths about contesting. You know, it's all about the equipment. Let me block this really quick. This thing's being so annoying. I saw these and I thought they were so great. It's all about the equipment. My HF radio antenna is not good, new enough for contesting. You need an amplifier. And you need a tower and beam, which we have a lot of these things, which is very nice. But people that don't can also, you know, do contesting, which is cool. Some of the other myths, yeah, new operators can't win. They definitely have in the past. Like, you know, it's one of those things that if you put your mind towards it, you can easily do it. Well, maybe not easily, but everyone thinks you can easily. And there's no benefit in contesting. That's a big no-no, because like testing your equipment and learning how to use it in case of an emergency situation, which we'll talk about with winter field day and stuff like that later on. Not in reference to our club, just in general. And then one of the important things, I just found this to be funny, but it is important if you're like gonna full send it, like, you know, your position. You'll see later, I believe it's Seton Bum is this one guy called it. I show that at the very end, but it's kind of like what you need to do, you know, to be good at it. It's just time. It takes a chair. Yeah, you gotta stick it down, you know, Gorilla Glue. Better than the 3D printer. All right, so here's some of those Q codes and stuff I was talking about earlier. So 73, if you don't know, is best regard. 88 is like loves and kisses. So like literally someone says like 73 to you, and that's what they mean. It's not just like, oh, yeah, that is the number that exists.
So what is monitoring 73?
88.
88.
What's 88? What's
That's how we
88?
roll now.
Love
CQ, so calling or looking for contact. So it's just, you know, calling out into the void and seeing if someone either sees you on their waterfall or, yeah, if you're looking for people essentially. QSL, acknowledgement of contact or complaint, usually followed by 73 or like good luck or nice talking to you or whatever, you know, normal human things. QSO is like you made a contact with someone. You know, we made 100 QSOs during the contest. I wish. QTH. That's why I said we wish. QTH, what is your position? Or like, you know, what's your home, or like, you know, don't be specific, but like technically they can look you up on the ULS unless you have like a PO box or something, but that's beside the point. Then we got, what do I got? QRZ, which that one we'll see a bit more in the next slide. Who is calling me or looking to make a contact? And then QRP is like low power operation, so like 1 watt. You know, some people can do like milliwatt range. It's pretty crazy. Yes, and there's a whole bunch more like DX, like a long distance contact, which we'll get to a little bit. QRN is like there's noise around, like what do I do kind of deal, or can we switch frequencies? QST is a weird one. Is there any message for ham radios? It's also a magazine, as you saw previously. And then I also want to note that QRZ is also a website we can look at people's call signs. So that's kind of nice to know. It's fun to mess around on there. And yeah, there's no place like my QPH. All right. So really quick, CQ versus QRZ, because there's been some debate about that. So CQ, like we said, is like calling for new contacts into the void. It's like, is anyone out there kind of deal? Or if you're what they call running, which is like just living on a frequency and just keep calling it until someone responds to you. You can do that. And then QRZ is more like, you know, you attempted to make contact with them, you want to get their call sign again, or maybe it's a pile up and you heard someone and it's like, oh, QRZ, the station starting with whiskey or W, you know, because, or yeah, well, they probably do more letters than that, but that's my point. Yeah, because it's really easy to get scrambled because AM is not great, but it's smaller bandwidth than FM, so we like it usually. Speaking of that, band plan. If you how many of you guys have seen this? Well, I know. Okay, so this is like the holy bible in amateur radio, except it's only one paper, so it's very nice. It just shows mostly the HF bands that we work on, high frequency. It also shows very high frequency and ultra high frequency, which we aren't going to talk about too much here, just because contesting is cooler on the HF bands, in my opinion, and more widely known. So really quick, yeah. So since a lot of people don't know about RIDI, and I really did until I looked into it, stands for radio teletype. It's the, I always forget, red on there, along with data modes. I don't know. Yeah, so you got 26 uppercase letters, and then you got 10 figures and signs. So that's kind of based on the state of the machine, which I didn't really understand. I still don't. Don't ask me about it. Look into it on your own time. But yeah, shifted at 170 hertz FSK. It used to be 850 hertz, so it's kind of cooler to see that they've narrowed down the bandwidth of that and made it more efficient. Some of the other data modes are kind of up there, PSK31, FT8, and more. Yeah, they're really cool to look into, but it's one of those things that you type in a message essentially and wait for someone else to respond, and the computer does all the work. Although it does send it over the airwaves, like, oh, I could just text someone. So that's why phone and SSB, well, same thing, but is a lot more fun. Speaking of that, phone and image, so that's all the green there that you see. Single sideband points and slow scan television, you can actually do them in the same frequency band, so don't be surprised if you're SSTV when you're talking someday. CW, Morse code, small bandwidth, and you can, varying speeds, words per minute kind of deal. So typical, dits and dots, that we all definitely know, or should at least. All right. Just want to highlight on it a bit more. So up in the top left there is CW. You can see that, ideally it should be a straight line occupying just 1 hertz of bandwidth. But in reality, you're pulsing it. You got a square wave going. So it actually operates at about 150 hertz of bandwidth or so-ish, which you can see on this fun little table up here, hopefully. SSD is 3 kilohertz. Why is that, you ask? Well, it's a single sideband. I wish I had a stick or pointer or something, but one day. So you take essentially upper sideband if you're above 10 megahertz and lower sideband if you're below 10 megahertz. It's an interesting spot for it to work. And yeah, so essentially the idea is, you're literally just duplicating the data on either side. So why take up more bandwidth? Although your voice will sound a lot better and clearer, it's really not all of that much. You can't tell a huge difference from it, at least from what I've seen. So we take 3 kilohertz of that. FM takes up a lot more bandwidth, typically 12.5 to 25 kilohertz. It says 10 on there, but same difference, which is what we use for repeaters and things of that nature, where your audio quality is a lot better. Yeah, another fun thing is that W1AW, which is like, I don't know how to say it, the ARRL kind of like headquarters station-ish. They do like Morse code practice on specific frequencies every day, so you can listen to different speeds and stuff and try and decode it, and I found that really interesting.
Which one is that? This one?
Oh, F. Nice. Which one is W1AW?
No, the one that's give you the Morse code thingy.
That's W1AW. It's a station, I believe, on the East Coast, right? Yeah.
Can you listen from here?
Yeah, you can hear them from here. CW is like, SSB I can hit East Coast easy on 100 watts like we have, but CW you can probably easily hit Europe on a good day. So yeah, it's one of those things that, you're taking up so much less bandwidth, needing so much less power to hear it, that it's easier to transmit. All right. Really quick. Oh, I didn't edit this one enough. All right, well, it'll be pretty. So propagation conditions. So yeah, these are very important. I wish I could talk about them all day and learn about them all the time, but here's what we got. You are here. So essentially we're in a peak area of, higher solar, I always forget, sunspot activity. So NOAA says that they're supposed to be around 95 to 130 per day, and NASA concurs. This one ham says, 153 to 305 sunspots per day. And you might ask, why do we care? And that's a good question. So the idea is, as you can see here, higher sunspots equals good. So a higher density of ions in the ionosphere for higher bands, so that's typically in the D band, which is lower down towards Earth. This is the ionosphere that surrounds us. And then essentially you can get cool stuff like long distance propagation essentially at higher max usable frequencies, MUF. So like I can operate at 10 megahertz, or not 10 megahertz, 10 meters, which is 28 megahertz or so, at sunset time, and maybe hit around the world essentially. So kind of a cool thing to deal with. However, that's unfortunate for the lower bands like 40 meters, where a lot of people enjoy talking, 7 megahertz or so, because it takes longer for that D layer to dissipate because of that higher sunspot activity, which typically it dissipates pretty quickly once it becomes nighttime or is turning into sunrise, which we'll talk about the gray line in a little bit here. So yeah, that kind of goes into daytime versus nighttime bands. That D layer, once it goes bye-bye, you can your max usable frequency goes down, which means 40 meters, 80 meters, things of that nature are better to use. Yeah. So here's gray line, fun stuff. Is that idea of your max usable frequency is still high at that sunset time and that sunrise time. As the D layer becomes I always forget what it is, less absorptive, that's a word. Less absorption in the D layer essentially, and you can travel a lot further with your skyways that you're shooting up. So the D layer is not absorbing, but the E and F layers are still ionized in that case at this time of day. So your waves aren't just shooting out of the ionosphere. So kind of a cool idea. People have gotten far distances around that time, along with just think about it for DXing and contesting and things of that nature. Useful to follow. As I heard from someone on there, that's fun. As I heard from someone on the way all the time, follow the sun. And he makes a fair point. Like you just gotta pay attention to that because it carries a lot of leeway. Oh, let's not go to types of contests. We got cool guys up top there with a 10 gigahertz dish. I believe that's somewhere in Michigan or one of the Great Lakes. I've seen some of their videos, I think. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, some of the fun ones, voice SSB, single sideband, as I discussed earlier, is the one we partake in most, just because kind of least barriers to entry. Then you got your mixed modes, all sorts of different things like SSB, data, CW kind of combined all in one. CW, digital, and then region based, like I was talking about. Each state has its own QSO party, so that's kind of cool. And you can kind of like try and get all the counties in that state, which we'll talk about in a bit when it comes to California. Then we got school specific, DX based, and then specific bands. So we got like the 10 gigahertz and above ARRL contest. They have a 222 megahertz and above. And then we have special ones, which I didn't really look into, but they seem pretty cool. Or I saw some of them, like straight key contest. So I guess no iambic pentameter, or that's not the word. Whatever the heck it is. Same difference, right? But for those of you who don't know, iambic paddles, essentially one is a dit and one is a da. So one is, one is the other. So straight key takes a bit longer. And then EME, which is Earth, Moon, Earth. So just literally balancing, your signal. You probably won't have a huge dish like that, but I know that does. So. Well, the one group in Colorado, they've done pretty well in those contests because they have a huge dish like that. And it was a lot of fun to visit them.
Or you can just rent the giant one in the jungle.
Exactly. Well,
but it's
ours
dead
is
now.
yeah.
You could have.
Yeah, and there's like at least 400 contests out there, so there's a lot. Don't worry.
More contests and dates.
Yeah, you know it. Okay, so hardware we have for contesting. Unfortunately, not a Maestro. Flex radio is longer. Anyway, so we have the Antenna Genius right here, which is really cool because it has a VFO A and B, so those are the output ports. And we have all those hooked up to the different antennas on the main tower, along with our HF vertical. We have filter banks, which I don't have a picture of on here, but they're the big, metallic looking objects that have literally inductors and capacitors inside. You can have a look later if you guys want to see, they're pretty cool. That essentially is from multiple operators, right? So if you have someone transmitting and maybe they're close to the other person receiving, you don't really want that person receiving to hear them on the same tower or, you know, a different antenna there. So that's what those are for, isolating that, you know, making sure the flex stays safe.
How you can jump between different repeater? To
Like-
contacting somebody other side, so how you jump between multiple repeater to hit the other person?
Like different antennas, or this isn't repeaters, this is literally, so HF, really quick, it bounces off the ionosphere and goes down to the other person, or, you know, spreads out. Yeah, so we're not using repeaters when you sort.
But if you wanna use, so on the contesting, you're not using repeater?
No, you're not allowed to at all, so even if you're doing VHF and stuff,
Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't count, so you have to do simplex or something.
Mm.
So that's a whole fun of it, like, you know, it's fun to mess around on our repeater, but that's like, anyone can do that. Not anyone can shoot waves off the, you know, ionosphere, which is pretty cool when you think about it. We definitely take that for granted. Anyway, the Flex 6600 SDR up top there, really cool, because, you know, you can have dual receive along with 4 split channels on each receive, so that's pretty cool if you want to listen to a whole bunch of different people. Antennas, we have our 72-foot tower. It's not 80 feet, I just found out. according to the website.
72 to where? The tippy top or the base?
I don't know.
Well,
Good,
that's
good Marcel question. Marcel, if you're watching this, comment below. So yeah, we have our HF vertical, not shown here, omnidirectional. For those that don't know, literally means it goes around in all directions the same. Now, that's different from isotropic, which is like a point source, because there's one direction, you know, where you're shooting current and there is no radiation pattern. So there's radiation all around this. Imagine a donut. So that's good, you know, if you want to contact anyone versus being more directional, like the 40-meter dipole down here, and then the tri-band 7-element high gain or whatever it's called antenna up here. So that's good, you know, when you have your rotor, you want to point it east-west or something, talk to Japan, talk to, you know, East Coast, Europe, stuff like that. Anything else? Yeah, and we have a whole bunch of other HF radios down there. Along with, here's just the picture that Hunter had in the Discord. The Flex radio 40-meter spectrum one night. So that's kind of cool. And then I think we have 1.2 gigahertz. I think we have that one radio, no? It's taken apart. I wonder, yeah. All right, this is a typical Mathew S slide, but I was pretty proud of this one. So yeah, logging software. So different options include log4OM. OM stands for old man for the record. N1MM logger, which is kind of what I focus on and kind of what's cool. N3FJT, which is another one that's widely used, and those are just 3 of the main ones. Don't worry, I can send this later. Yes, so initially you have to configure your station. There's, you know, a couple settings, stuff like that in the software. And then you can have databases set up so that you can, you know, just create a new log in there for that specific contest, or for each contest, just have a yearly database. And then you can do different things like, oh yeah, there's some other cool things. Remember to click log it down here, not right next to the what is it, the like button. Don't ask. And then we got, you know, you can pick the log type. Oh, I missed. So QRZ, this one's really cool. So if you type in their call sign, you don't even have to log it yet. You can click on that, and they'll take you to their QRZ page. If you don't think you have a QRZ page, you'd be surprised. You probably do, because when you get a call sign, they automatically make one for you. I believe just for US stations. There are DX ones too, but I think they have to make you or something like that. You can select on run versus search and pound. So running, like we talked about earlier, just staying on a frequency, calling CPU, getting contacts. Search and pounce is kind of what it sounds like. You look around on the spectrum, you're like, oh, there's someone cool. You try and hop in there and see if you can contact them. And then, yeah, this is kind of blocked down here, but we got single operator to receive or single operator to VFO. So O2B is technically what we have, because to receive would mean you have two separate radios actually, but only one of them is, actually transmitting.
Is that what we have?
We have SO2B, BFO, because it's one radio, it's
So
two
there's two radios in one box.
Listen here.
It's like some part, I have pictures.
It's the same platform, like two separate. You're not wrong, but his. Alright, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, you can't see this, but this is a list of different contests from the N1MM. So they have, all the features that you need. We'll talk about what constitutes an exchange within there. So that's very nice. And then there's a picture of log4 OM, some dude's call sign or picture. Alright, another fun one. I have a lot of fun ones, trust me. So here's a lot of the features in N1MM. I might skip a lot of that because that's not really fun. We'll talk about the pretty picture. So we got the info. So here you can't really see, but trust me. So these are different bands, and these are the number of QSOs you made. So it's kind of nice to see, along with the QSOs per hour. So that's kind of cool, a little info thing. We got your check log monitor. So to make sure you didn't duplicate a contact, or to check, oh, maybe I didn't catch their last letter of their call sign. I can see, what call signs exist with that last letter. So that's a really nice feature that's built in. We got the contest log up top, so that's important. That's all your previous QSOs that you made. And then we got the band map window and available multipliers and Qs. So the red ones here, so they do fun color coding, as I like. The red ones are like multipliers that are up for grabs. So like, you wanna get all those that you can. So in the end, your score increases, which you'll see, it's not like golf, unfortunately. But, and the blues are just QSOs that you can make, but they aren't gonna add any multipliers to you. Green, which is not on here, which I don't know if there ever has been, is like there are two multipliers from that person. So that's kind of cool. And then grays, you've already contacted them. They're not worth anything to you, at least. Band map window. I forgot to mention that. So these are people that have self-spotted themselves. That's how it's getting all this. So essentially it's over, I think it's like a telnet network. It's kind of sus.
It's all unencrypted and signed and verified, but
it's fine. It's amateur radio. It's good enough for us. But yeah, these are people that are self-spotting, saying, I'm on this frequency, I'm calling out, which is now legal to do in contests as of a year or two ago. So that's kind of interesting to note. And then yeah, same thing. That's them talking over there. And then if you have a split receiver, which means you have an incremental offset for your receive or transmit. I don't know if it'll show here, but there's a blue arrow essentially and a red arrow up there, which I don't think this image has, like I said. All right. I didn't want to have no picture on here, so I thought I'd have some fun. Yeah, so how scoring your rules work, basic rules, your usable bands, your modes that are usable, the time span, so like how long the contest runs. Very basic thing, but I just thought I'd put them in there. It's kind of good to know. Information exchange, signal report, location, operator, class. So a lot of these are contest dependent, but we'll get to those in a little bit here. And then basic scoring, 1 or 2 points for each QSO, so contact. Sometimes usually more for CW, usually 2 or 3 points, so that's kind of cool to know. And then sometimes you get bonus points as well too. So if you have a lower power, like your QRP, or you're just low power, which is usually less than 100 watts or so, you get some points. Or if you're on alternative supplies, I believe there's some contests, which we still need to do a strain test of our big old battery some of them these days, winter field day maybe. Sometimes you can get more points for that, sometimes you can't, which we'll see at winter field day in a little bit here. And then yeah, EMEQ, so sometimes you get bonus points for that and satellites. Okay, example. So yeah, I just set this up on my computer just for the heck of it, really not much work, but setting up the parameters. So winter field day, that's happening January 27th to 28th at those times, which we'll get to a bit more later. We are single operator 2 BFOs for the record. not SO2R, I believe, at least from what I saw from all the forums and stuff. And then at least for Winterfield Day, it's interesting. It's all bands except those. So 12, 17, 30, 60, which honestly people aren't really on that much anyway. So like big whoop. All modes, and then the soapbox down here is just comments for yourself. And then yeah, so I'm not really sure what the scent exchange is, to be honest. I think that's more for digital modes, to be honest. But I just kind of put in what we would put there for Winterfield Day. So yeah, single op, like I said, all bands, low power since, well, actually I think it'd be high for Winterfield Day because low power they consider QRB, which we'll get to later. Mode, you know, SSB, CW, digital. And then yeah, so scent exchange. So here's the fun one. For one ISB, which I forget what the one is, but I is like stationary or like in-house or something like that. SB is for the Santa Barbara location, you know, for the ARRL. So that changes per contest, what you know. Okay, really quick, the log file. Pretty basic. You probably won't have to deal with this unless you're literally making it by hand because you wrote them all down. Don't ask.
We never done that, right?
Not talking about myself. No, definitely not. Or Chris. I mean, anyway. Yeah. So exchanges are based on the contest, but the standard for storing them is typically in this Cabrillo file format, which the logging software makes, which is really nice. So, you know, QSO date and time, pretty basic in UTC over there. The operator call sign and name, and the QTH, the location. And then the person you made contact with, their call sign, their name, their location. And then sometimes you'll have whatever you need for that contest. So that you can just plug it into their software and, you know, bada bing, bada boom, it'll score it for you. And they will also cross-reference it to the people you made contacts with to make sure, you know, oh, they made contacts with them. And then if they don't submit their log, you usually don't get those points, I believe. So that's kind of sad. Definitely never done that either. And then mode, yeah, operation mode. A little silly, but they make sense now that I'm looking at it. PH, you know, phone, SSB or AM. Or Y, RIDI, DG, digital, and then I don't know why I have it on there a second time. It's very important. All right. So just some basic ideas, you know, having two operators, but doing one as a search and pounce and one as a running. So that's kind of a potential idea that's out there, which, you know, can make you have more contacts potentially if you're looking for people to make them with, and then switching off who has the transmit control since it's only one operator technically speaking. What else? Yeah, SO2D, kind of like I was just saying with that switching off between people. And then pile up technique. So, you know, when you have a pile up, a lot of people are trying to make a contact with a specific station. Sometimes they're on an expedition, or, you know, they're just a DX. It's like, oh, I want to work Finland or whatever. And they might have 20 people trying to make contacts. So sometimes they essentially go up or down 5 to 20 or so kilohertz. And they'll tell you, you know, up 10 or up 5 and stuff like that. So that means they'll be, yeah, they'll be wanting to hear you there. So they'll be receiving you there. And you can do that via RIT or XIT on a radio, receive or transmit incremental tuning, which pretty simple to do on the radio, especially with something like the Flex. And then another thing Dan brought up to me recently was a really good idea of, like, you know, making a schedule if you're gonna do a long contest, like 24 hours. Some of us are, you know, able to sit in front of a computer for that long. I, however, am not. So like having a literal written out schedule of like 4 hours, this person, you know, switching off or bringing food, you know, stuff like that, having a good time, but planning it out as well. Straightforward things, but good to think about. Sometimes, you know, they leave the brain, as I say. Okay, so typical QSO in a contest, it depends. But yeah, like we kind of said, the important information: call sign, name, signal report, usually 5.9, but I'll show a chart in a minute. And then location. So that depends. But you know, typically for us, like Charlie Alpha, California, Or in the case of the California QSO contest, it's our specific region, so San Luis Obispo, which the 4-letter indicator that they use is SLUI, so you tell everyone that. And then sometimes they'll want our grid square or ARRL location identifier, those are pretty good, so CM95QH. Don't worry, I don't remember that, you can look it up. That's where I got that little image from, so.
Down on a poster in the shop.
It's also written down in a couple, it's probably in a couple places. No?
Maybe have a poster. that
Probably.
says It's not true north.
And then here's all the grid squares, so there are a whole bunch. People, I think, even try and like get all of them or like go out to the middle of the ocean and operate. It's weird. People are, yeah, some people are people. And then yeah, we'll show some examples in a second here. So yeah, signal readability, that's really skewed. Don't worry about that. It's legible, right? Yeah.
Sure.
No, agreed. So yeah, readability and signal report, like I was just talking about, that 5.9, you know, that's like perfect readability. Typically, you won't get anything lower than 3.5 because you just won't be able to take them out of the noise usually. And then yeah, down there, just from my knowledge and probably everyone's, the S meter strength. So you know, you have S1 through S9 for that strength. And each one increased by 6 dB or double the power essentially in linear units. Okay, I might rush. Okay, actually, I'm doing pretty well. We're almost there. We're almost there. So example 1, California QSO party, sometimes called the CQP, as the cool kids say. So when that was this year, 1600 UTC on whatever that date is, October 7th. There we go. To the other date there, 2200 UTC on October 8th. We are 8 hours behind UTC, so 1600 would be 8 a.m. here, just for the record, at least in standard time. Daylight time, you know, changes. Well, daylight
That
time.
was daylight. It's now time. But yeah.
Same, yeah, it was before the change, but you get the idea. So the exchange for this contest, which I found out really quick because I kind of went in knowing nothing, I just wanted to kind of put our name out there, was the name, my bad, the QSO number and 4-letter county abbreviation if you're a California state. So I'd say, you know, SLUI, oh, you're number 20 on my log. And then they tell me what number I am on their log, and then what state they're from, or if they're out of, you know, the country, they just say DX, which counts as well. And then for this contest, the reason why it's specific, you know, per state is you get a multiplier for each county that you've worked for each of those regions. So there were 50 or 58 total multipliers in California. So you can get up to 58 times whatever your base score is for the number of contacts made, which, what is it, 2 points for SSB, 3 for CW. So it's kind of cool to know. Oh, and there's the wine down there. It's the smallest picture. I couldn't like warp it up without, you know, destroying it. So here's another one that is coming up. January 20th, 2024, 1800 UTC to the 21st. So, you know, it's a 12-hour contest, if I'm getting my mouth right. 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. our time. Exchange for this one is literally just call sign name and state, province, or country, because some Canadians can work this one as well, since it's North America, or MX, I believe, is what they use for just Mexico, which, you know, makes sense, but it's always good to know that kind of stuff. And then for the multipliers, and I believe you get 1 for each, you know, state or region that you work. So, you know, 13 provinces, I guess Mexico as well, 50 states. You could rack up some points for this contest as well. All right, last example here. Winter field day. So this is like a big one. This only started like a couple of years ago, like maybe 10 years ago or so, because they were tired of just one field day a year, I think. But yeah, that's January 27th, 2024, 1900 UTC to the other time on there. So it's a 24-hour contest. Rules, all bands except those ones that we talked about earlier. So a lot of this is review. However, scoring, fun. QSOs times PO, so your power, I believe, multiplier, times your band and mode multiplier. So if I understood it correctly, which hopefully I did, you get power 2 times if it's 5 watts for CW and 10 watts for phone. And then, you know, nothing if we're doing 100 watts, which probably what we do, which funny enough, for this contest, 100 watts is your max output power allowed. Typically, it's whatever the EIRP is, which I think is usually 1.5 kilowatts usually for HF. Don't quote me on that though. FCC might not like that. Yeah, and so they also have these additional objectives, which I talked about earlier. So like operating 6 hours straight, satellite operation, alternative power, 6 bands or something like that. But you don't get any points for those, so but they encourage it heavily. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on satellite operation?
Making a contact with someone else, like that's also listening to the satellite. So
It's
it'd be like
bouncing off a repeater on the satellite.
pretty much, yeah. They have repeaters on board.
So their repeaters are like sideband repeaters, and some of them have been
Which most are at them, right?
they're really good ones.
And they're also different bands. So they also, I think, have some 10-meter satellites up there as well.
But you can do more stuff on the satellite.
That'd be pretty cool.
It depends how their repeater works, right? They're not only normal type of repeaters, they're a little bit.
Are you allowed to use them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're made for amateurs. If you ever look up Oscar and stuff like that, there are a whole bunch of satellites that have literally been launched just for this purpose.
You're allowed to use them on contests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Depends on the
You-
contest.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that one.
Every contest is different rules.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
that's
usually they're pretty straightforward. They'll tell you, but yeah, it's always good to look into it beforehand. Rather than learning. Well, learning by doing is okay. And they have the fun little mascots. Then here's the fun one. I got some of the points from previous ones. So it's like 160,000 or something like that. With I think 30. So
That was the
claim
winner?
that. So that was the overall winner. So they have different. I didn't mention that. I have that in my notes. So they have it where you can group with other teams or multiple people up to I believe 2 to 5. So I think those super high scores are like 2 to 5 people that work together. So the specific operators up here, the multipliers they got 33, and then I didn't really understand the difference between these. I just assumed they're sorted by final because I think that's what they meant. Like there's one person I saw claim to score super high and like they only got a final score of like 92. Fun facts. And then here the single operators are kind of clubs that did super well. So I don't know, 54,000 or so. So something to look forward to. I believe in us. Which multiplier of 23. That's pretty achievable. I feel like. Oh, forgot to mention that one. Did I mention the band mode multipliers? Well, I guess it's on there, but yeah. So each band, I believe if you work 4 bands, you get a multiplier of 4 as well. And then if you work CW in 4 bands, you get a multiplier of 8. Math, simple math. I like it. All right, summary. I know that was kind of long. Well, longish.
It's fun.
Yeah. So we talked about history. We talked about the cool lingo. Talked about operation mode. So SSB, CW, all that. Types of contests, a little bit. The club station, always a good one. Logging software, and a couple of examples there. And I thought I'd put up some fun random memes. Do not disturb. We're extremely busy running the FTA contest. Because that's how it is. It does like all the work for you, the digital modes. This is why SSB and CW are so cool. And then what is it, Gilligan's Island or whatever it is? Making contests and contacts instead of asking for help out there. And then here's the one for the resources. Here's what I used a bit. I found it somewhere. I recommend it. It was pretty cool. That's where I found the history and there's some other cool stuff. AWR handbooks, another good one. Penna handbook, and then there were a whole bunch of books. And then this is pretty cool. They have a contest university if you really want to like watch YouTube and get educated. It was like a 5-hour presentation or something that they did at convention. So there are resources. They also sell books, but those ones are not available elsewhere. We'll put it that way. Yay, question. Question.
So what's our best contest in the past few years? How did we do on the last one we participated in?
So like 5,000 points, I think. School club roundup. I think. Now, some schools got, I believe, 1,000 QSOs, which that adds up pretty quick with the multipliers. Cause that one in specifically, I believe you get more points if you do a school to school club, CUSO.
Yeah.
So if we contact another university or elementary school or high school, we and they get more points, so it's a win-win situation.
Cool.
Nope, or preschool.
So which of those are we gonna be doing? Are we gonna be going crazy on?
However many we want.
Okay, we're doing at
Uh,
least one of those next quarter.
well, I just, oh, you know what, I didn't even mention, I found another one too that was pretty good, March 2nd to 3rd, so those both are, literally alternate after week, January 20th, 27th. March
Hear me?
3rd, ARRL DX International SSD contest. So that's another one that, like, yeah.
Can you guys hear me on Zoom?
We
Yep.
can.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. I was gonna say good evening, club. I was gonna mention one place every month, QST magazine, the ARRL magazine. They publish a list of contests that are coming, that are in the current month and forthcoming that they know about throughout the rest of the year on a single sheet. It's about midway through the magazine in every issue. So you can, it's a really nice, easy way to find. And I think they make that page available for free on the ARRL website.
Okay, I know for my resources, I was looking at this contestcalendar.org, which
That's another good one.
everything,
Yeah.
like all countries and all sorts of crazy contests. But,
Yeah.
no,
Why are we so bad at this?
it is, cause we didn't use the bum in chair technique.
School club roundup, and most of the time is literally the logging.
I think we
software
just-
time out.
I think we just need to do running as well, like
I did, I had 2 streams going, and I would switch back and forth trying to find people and calling CQ. Anyone I found calling CQ for their content.
was it only 40?
No, I went across like 10, 20, and 40. That's
Good
why-
question.
That's why I did, well, I mean, I made most contacts of anyone in the club for that, but it was only like 30.
Yeah,
And
no,
then- And then other clubs get 2,000.
Oh,
I forgot all these
they
fun
have no
facts.
lives. I don't know.
Okay, I forgot this fun one. So the best ever QSO is made in an hour, 4:57,
In 1 hour?
1 hour.
Bro.
Phone too. It was single sideband.
Wow. It's like, yeah, hello, bye. Next one.
Okay, so we're beating that at the next contact.
Yeah. At least for 1 hour.
Okay,
At least for.
Yeah.
We gotta spot ourselves. And I think that's the other,
That's part of it.
which, like I said,
I
I
know.
found on a Reddit post, which is very reliable, as I said. It was the amateur radio Reddit, for the record. Yeah, self-reporting is now,
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and we weren't using.
Another.
Software at all.
yeah. Which-
It's
It's Jeff
It's a cheating.
on the Zoom. Is that Jim or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another tip for operating contests in pairs is to have one guy, act as the operator, the other guy acting as a scribe. And that really helps. And especially if you guys want to get into doing CW, that also is a fun way to do it. If you're trying to learn CW, learning CW during a contest is actually, if you want to learn CW, that's a good way to get some practice. But if you have one person, both of you are listening and one person scribes while keying, it's a lot easier and you can always trade off. So the other guy can operate and the other guy can scribe, is a really good technique.
Okay, like on the same frequency is what you're saying.
On the same radio, you're both sitting at the same radio.
Yeah.
And one correction to one of the things you said about the RIT. RIT is typically used to you don't really need to use it very much anymore. It's for more geared towards old radios that drift. And so you're trying to get you're using RIT to kind of tune into a guy who's not quite right on frequency. You use typically split operation when you're trying to do split, And that uses dual VFO. So you have a VFO A and a VFO B, and one acts as a receive and one other acts as a transmit. And the radios will have a mode to put it in, or at least your Flex should have that feature built in, where you just set split, and you set one to the transmit frequency, one to the receive frequency, and you listen on the receive, and when you transmit, it'll automatically go to the other VFO.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know, yeah. Automating that would definitely help too. When they stop talking, you can just switch over immediately.
Sounds like that's what it does, yeah.
Yeah, you press, you make two splits and you can select which one press try.
Well, I'm saying automatically.
Like,
Yeah, you have to click it on the Flex.
you put it once and then
Yeah.
it does it automatically.
Yeah, you just enable it, and then but you do have to set the different frequencies that it transmits and receives on. But once you've done that, it'll handle the PTT for you.
You mean you're not talking to yourself on both frequencies? See, that's where my mind goes, that was the issue. But that makes a whole lot of sense, good to know. I have
Any
my
other questions?
I still confused how you sending to the ionosphere, then it goes to other people in place, and like how you do it.
Well, you
So
watched
what?
my other presentation from 2 years ago that I gave about HF propagation. I think that was during Zoom time.
We didn't talk about that during the.
A little.
Rush over it.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's hard to, you don't focus on enough. There are a lot of YouTubers that like focus on space weather right now. It's really cool stuff. Yeah, there's a lot to it that I don't even understand. If you look at the ARRL handbook though, if you can, like, I'm pretty sure there are some, easy to get a hold of copies of it. Where, yeah, they talk about all this stuff about like ground wave propagation versus skywave, which, we focus on skywaves versus NVIS, near vertical incident skywave, which is like, you shoot at people. I always forget, closer to you, right? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
can we
bounces
shoot?
go straight
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So you don't get as far.
So all
propagation
the
as you
shooting work.
You build an antenna that transmits straight up. The idea is
based on the angle, based on the charge in
Yeah,
the
the,
ionosphere, different layers, the D, I think there's the F1, there's an F2 layer, and there are different lengths, different distances, like we're saying, the D clears up at night. There's also this thing called sporadic E, which sometimes you can shoot waves, from VHF, like hundreds or thousands of miles, with like inversion layers occurring within it. It's
You can
physicist
do it,
stuff, but it's really
you
cool.
can do with this probably.
No, you need like a better antenna, but like you probably could on like 5 or 10 watts talk, 1,000 miles with sporadic E. Maybe not 1,000, but I've heard of.
You can. I know. I know if been here in the county long enough. There's some folks that occasionally will get into our repeater system from like Oregon on days it's
Not an all-star, you gotta specify that.
it's like you hear these strange people coming in over on the repeater, and it's like, wow, you're ways away, far away.
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
So I'm not spreading lines, good. I try not to, but
Yeah, would they be coming in from handhelds, or are they running like 100 watts on VHF? Usually with like a base antenna.
Most of them are probably running a Yagi.
Yeah.
that makes sense. But I don't know, like I assume could probably do.
Is it
like
hard to build
20,
Yoda?
No,
Not much.
we can show you some websites after.
I love to learn.
Tape measure Doug does.
I think it would be like maybe 100 watts.
That's awesome.
That's so impressive, but.
Are we planning next quarter build one?
No,
Maybe.
but
We could repair some.
We could repair those.
I've done some.
Alternative.
Well, should we record for that or should we stop recording? We can discuss. Yeah, alright, any other questions for that? Alright, well, I guess I'll turn off, can I
Yeah.
turn it off from here? You-
Probably.
Wait, the car's
Oh,
out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,